Okay, so yeah, I did create my theory of time, well, originally to support my theory of time travel. But the time traveling part is a whole other story. Um, and I mean, essentially, that's how it started so many years ago. But uh, yeah, it's a very small part of the theory of time, and basically most theories of time travel are just used to describe theories of time, and unfortunately, my theory of time, I haven't described it quite well enough yet to be able to use that yet. Um, and that's going to take a few more videos. Um, but anyway, yeah, I do agree that time is different than space. I do agree that it doesn't really fit calling it a fourth dimension. I never felt right about calling it a dimension. Um, but I refer to it as a dimension simply for the purposes of tracking, because basically a theory of time is a method that we can use to track an object through time. Um, I prefer to talk about it, reality as space time, because I believe that time is something that has, well, kind of its own dimensions, which work differently than spatial dimensions. I think, well, my theory is kind of two dimensional, um, in that, like, there's the main timeline, and then there's steps above it which describe the changes that happen on the main timeline. So the two dimensionalness of it is really it's not something that is real. It's just a way that we can use to track the one ever changing timeline. Um, but yeah, existing in time. I believe that objects perdure in time, and that basically means the same thing as something enduring in time, except that defines it differently. It uses temporal parts instead of moments in time, and I won't get into right now. I won't get into why moments in time don't make any sense, but I think you actually mentioned it in one of your videos, so you probably know the argument that something can't exist within nothing. But yeah, perdurance basically means enduring through time, through constant movement. And the reason that I believe this is because we move at different speeds through time as other things, and we can still observe those things. It's not because of relativity directly. It's more because of the results that we observe when we see relativity in action, or more specifically, the fact that we can observe those results at all. If the future and the past didn't exist in reality, then when something started moving at a different speed in time, it would either disappear completely from our observations because they would no longer be in our present, or if they came back to our speed in time, they would just suddenly appear. But we are able to see astronauts go up in space and come back down, even though they experience time differently than we do. And I think you might agree about that. But yeah, because you said the future is real but not actual, and I think that describes really well how I view it and why I use temporal objects. Because nothing exists without movement, and it stands to reason that things don't fully exist unless their timeline is also moving in some way, and that's basically the basis for the idea of temporal objects, which are a way of categorizing the changes in time. And so I explain why we experience the present as a ripple in time that was the result of some random effect. But perdurance is still necessary, as those ripples need to affect something in order to continue the chain of cause and effect. So there had to have been something there to change before it got changed. So it's the same idea as that, but before time started, it can be said that nothing existed because it wasn't in space time. But it did exist in space. But we don't exist in space, so as far as we're concerned, it didn't exist at all. Um, but I will agree with you that we can't know anything about the future. I also think that we can't really know anything 100% about the past. I think we have different reasoning for it. My theory is fundamentally deterministic and follows most of the laws of causality, except that I allow for random events, and it's those uncaused causes, those random events that cause someone to experience the present, because it's those events that change time. And so it's those events that cause the ripples in time, and what we're experiencing is something that's changing. Um, and yeah, the temporal objects are a way of categorizing those changes. And so if you experienced, if your past self is currently experiencing something different than your current self is, your physical self would still be the same, but as you would be two separate temporal objects. So then we can start to define objects through their movements. Um, and I'll also agree that, or I will agree that our bodies are time machines in the sense that they move differently through time than other things. Unless you have the same mass as someone else, you make the same movements and the same speeds and the same environment. You are moving differently through time than that other person, though the variance would be near infinitesimal, so you wouldn't notice, but there would still be a change there. But yeah, you're definitely more read up on time travel than pretty much anybody else I've managed to talk to in person, so yeah, please keep it coming.